Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing 3 brand new eyeshadow palettes from Essence, and I was so stinking excited when I saw these at the drugstore. I was actually at the pharmacy picking up a prescription, and while I was waiting for it to be filled, I thought, why not browse the makeup aisle? And I found these. As soon as I got home, I shared these palettes on Instagram because they were too beautiful to keep to myself. And after I shared them, I got a DM from Essence Makeup, so Essence North America. And they said that Shopper's Drug Mart, where I ended up finding my palettes, was one of the first stores in North America to actually receive these before anywhere in the US. So I feel so fortunate to finally be one of the first people to have a brand new makeup item. So with that said, I hope you find this review helpful, and if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button so you stay tuned to all of my new upcoming videos, and also so you can watch some of my old content. I like a lot of the makeup from Essence, and I also really enjoyed a lot of their eyeshadow palettes that I have purchased. So when I got these, I was so excited to see how well they would perform. I really like the new packaging that Essence has come out with for their eyeshadow palettes. Recently, they have been releasing some cardboard eyeshadow palettes, but these ones here are made up of 100% recycled paper, which I certainly appreciate. They do have an elastic band here to keep the palette closed because it does not have a magnetic closure, which I guess is going to make it easier to recycle after you are finished with it. So when you crack it open, and of course this one is the Love palette, you have a cute little metallic note up here. This one says the Self-Love Club, and then your eyeshadows are down here. You've got some square pans of mattes and metallics, and then one circle pan in the middle. I guess they did that to just change things up. This is a really nice neutral palette. You've got a lot of pinks and mauve tones in here. I think this is usable for just about everyone out there. Then we have the Energy palette. This one here is very similar in format. Again, you've got your little note up top. This one says less to do, more ta-da. And then as you can see, this one here is a more sort of warm tone eyeshadow palette. I honestly thought I was going to love the Love palette the most, but I really enjoyed the look I was able to create with this eyeshadow palette here. The tones felt so fiery and sultry on my eyes. I was really impressed. So this one here was awesome. And then the last palette is the Power palette. So this one here immediately called my name when I saw it, because when I cracked it open, not only did it say yay for today on the inside, but it had these gorgeous jewel tones in here, and I am such a sucker for a good metallic teal color. I mean, I love bright eyeshadows in general, so when I saw this one, I'm like, yup, this was the first one I picked up. And it was actually going to be the only one I picked up, but then I figured, you know what, the price point on these is pretty good. I'm just going to grab all 3. If you're curious, I paid $8.99 Canadian per palette, which I think is pretty reasonable. If you're curious about the ingredients for the eyeshadow palettes, they are listed on the back of each palette. I haven't had the opportunity to analyze all of the ingredients, but it does explicitly say on the back of the package that they do contain carmine, and that goes for all 3 of the eyeshadow palettes. And if I do a very quick glance of the ingredients, I do see that they contain talc and mica, so they do seem to be a talc and mica based formula. There is some silica in here, dimethicone. I guess that's what gives it that smooth texture, because some of these have really nice soft textures to them. In terms of irritants, I am seeing that it may contain Red Lake 40, so that can be irritating to the eyes. I'm seeing carmine, of course, iron oxides, and ultramarines. So there are some irritants in here. So as with all new eyeshadow palettes that you pick up, do a patch test before you smear them all over your eyes, unless you feel super confident with the formula. I have had these on my eyes for several hours now, and I haven't had any issues. So for me, I'm doing okay, but just because they're okay for me, it doesn't mean they're going to be okay for everybody else. At this point in the review, I'm going to insert some makeup tutorials here. I'm going to speed them up so they'll go by pretty quickly, but I really want you to see how these eyeshadows perform on my eyes. can see, the eyeshadows blended beautifully on my eyes. I thought they performed really well. I started with the Energy palette for my first eye, I guess, and I really liked every single color that I dove into. These two top colors here are very, very neutral. I mean, on my skin tone, I mean, those are really horrible swatches, but you can sort of see they are a very flesh tone. But what these two colors did do was help these other mattes blend out beautifully. The mattes have a really nice soft and buttery texture to them. In terms of the metallic colors in here, I'm gonna say they have a nice pop to them, but they're not super bright like the metal chromes from Essence. I find those have a really nice pop to them. So if you're looking for something with more intensity, buy the individual chrome shadows or just use another brand altogether. But I think these metallics are definitely more suited for the everyday makeup user, for somebody who wants a nice pop of color but doesn't want to be too extreme about it. In terms of application, I found that the metallics best applied with a finger. They were okay with a dry brush, except some of them did crumble quite a bit in the pan. And I should also say with the matte colors, there was a lot of kick up in the pan. I didn't have any fallout with the matte colors on my face, but I did have fallout with the metallic colors. So that's just something to be aware of. All that means, at least in my opinion, is that you're gonna do your eyes before you do your foundation. That way you get a nice clean application, but the choice is completely yours. For me, this palette here was very enjoyable to use, and I think I am definitely going to be reaching for it again. Then came the Love palette. This one I enjoyed as well. I found it was a little more glittery than the Energy palette, which wasn't necessarily a turnoff, it just caused more fallout on my face. So when I use this palette again, I'm gonna make sure I do my eyes before I do my foundation, just so I can wipe away all of the fallout. I thought the colors were beautiful in here. Similar to the Energy palettes, the mattes performed really well, so did the metallics. This color over here, this top sort of pink metallic color, was extremely glittery, but it looked beautiful on my eye. I don't think the camera could capture how sparkly it was in person. I really enjoyed this palette, but oh, the Energy palette was just, I don't know, it was calling my name. Maybe it was just the look I created. This smoky eye really did it for me today. This halo eye was nice, but you know, the other one was maybe a little bit better. And then lastly, the palette that I am wearing on my eyes today is the Power palette. So this is the jewel tone color one. So I have some thoughts about this palette. I really enjoyed using it. I want to start off by saying that, but there are a couple of warnings that I'm going to give you. Number one, this shadow down here, when I tried to spray my brush so I can get more of a metallic finish and maybe break down the consistency of the shadow a little bit, the shadow basically crumbled to pieces. It got all over the place. I couldn't exactly get a precise application with my flat brush, so this brush right here. It was a little bit tricky to use, and I did have to use my finger to basically push this shadow back into place. When you swatch it with your finger, it looks gorgeous. The color itself, I think, is beautiful. It's what I have in my crease, but I probably wouldn't apply the shadow the same way I did today. I would probably just put it all over my lid as a wash of color. Then came this cobalt blue color in the middle. In the pan, it looks so bright and gorgeous, and then in person, I'm not gonna say it doesn't look bright or gorgeous. I can definitely see it on my lower lash line, but I wish it just had a little more oomph to it. I guess they were aiming for making a blue shadow a little more wearable, again, for the everyday user, so it still looks great, but for me personally, I would have wanted something that had a little more pizzazz to it. For me, the true winner of this whole palette is this teal color right here. This teal metallic is just absolutely gorgeous. It is the color I have all over my lids, and I think it applied beautifully. Was it crumbly? Absolutely. Did it have kick up in the pan? You bet. But did it go on lovely? Yes, it did. I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm gonna sink my teeth into this color again in the very near future. And then surprisingly, this matte teal color was also really pigmented, and it blended beautifully onto my eyes. I really love the combination of these two shadows together. Sadly, I wasn't able to dig into these two metallic colors here or these two mattes, but I did use this color here for my inner corner highlight, and I would say it is beautiful. It's not super blinding like some people might want for their inner corner, but I think it adds enough color to give you that subtle highlight. Of all three palettes, I was most excited for the Power palette, but the one that I ended up loving the most was the Energy palette, believe it or not. You probably would have said, Dimitra, the Power palette is all yours, and yeah, it definitely has my name written on it, but I enjoyed creating my makeup look the most with this palette here. So if anyone were to ask me what palette should they invest in of all three, I'd probably say go for the Energy palette. It also happens to be the most neutral palette, I think. It's going to be very easy to use, and I think you have lots of options in here. The one thing that I am going to tell you is this gold color in the middle is not as pigmented as what it looks in the pan, at least the way I used it. I tried using it as an inner corner highlight, and it was pleasant, but it ended up looking more glittery than more of a nice sort of even tone metallic color. Maybe it'll apply differently if I were to use it all over my lids and with a finger, but with a brush for the inner corner, it was meh. And that's gonna do it for this review. I hope you found it really helpful. If you did, you know the drill. Give it a big thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Now, if you're in the mood to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can always do that by following me on all of my social media, which I will link for you in the description box below. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you are all having an amazing day no matter where you are in the world. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!